So yeah, Stack Overflow suggested turning it off and on, and it works. Okay, so the thing you did with the collation, when you created the database, you selected UTF-8 MB4 something. It's how the server should treat the text that you input into the database. So if you go a bit further back, most computers were working on something called the ASCII text, which is 8 and Z and 0 to 9 and a few special characters and nothing more. And that means that's also the standard in MySQL is using that, which means that you cannot save stuff like Chinese characters, Arabic characters, emojis, whatever you could imagine, names that are not non-English characters. So you see in our database we have a Chinese name and we have an Arabic name. You could also have like Spanish with tildes above the letters and stuff like that. If you use UTF-8 MB4, you will have support for whatever text anyone might input into the database. That's the thing you were choosing there, the collation thing. It also decides how it should sort text when you ask it to sort text. So you saw there was a few different ones. There was Hungarian, English, whatever, all that stuff. So it also affects how the text is sorted, because that differs from language to language. But that's basically what that does. So here you can put in, whatever you want into the database. Smileys, emojis, whatever. That's what that's for. So now you have a database that's running and some data in your database. Let's just find lesson 1. Yes. What you can do, so if you have any questions so far, just ask, and we'll continue with some of the other stuff. Okay. You can do let's see, with from the task table. Task table here. So we have 35 rows. Let's say I wanted to find out, instead of actually fetching all the rows, I want to find out how many rows there are. I just want to know how many tasks are in the system, nothing more. You can use aggregate functions. So this is a function on the table, and this thing just counts all the rows and says, well, you have 35 rows. You can also do, this doesn't make a lot of sense in this context, but you can add them up, add them together. This would make sense if you were doing some sort of web shop or whatever, and you wanted to know the sum of all the orders, how much money people have spent, stuff like that. You can also find the minimum and the maximum. So you're going to find the single minimum value or the max value, and this works both for text and for numbers. So let's say we wanted to find the max, the one that was updated most recently. So we're going to find that someone updated a task on the 19th of September or October. I can't do the math. October, yeah. And the earliest one was the 1st of October. These works on strings as well, as far as I remember. Let's try. So we're going to find the one starts with a W, the last, alphabetically the last one, and the same here, the first one. So these can be useful for various features. You can also group results. Let's say we want to count all the tasks. We have 35, but we also want to know how many tasks each user has. So we want to find out, okay, user 1 has 5 tasks, 2 has 10 tasks, all this stuff. So then you can group the results, group these results by another column. So in this case, you're going to count the rows and group them by user ID. So let's see here. So this is not very useful because we only get the counts and not the actual user IDs. So I also want to add the user ID to the list of fields I want to fetch. So now we know that there are 2 tasks that have no users assigned to them. User 1 has 3 tasks, user 2 has 3 tasks, user 3 has 4, and so on, all the way down. You can group by as many fields as you want. Usually it's used for counting. If you want to do statistics, you can group stuff by month or by year or by day or stuff like that. So you get results based on those fields, grouped into those fields. We haven't talked about how you join tables yet. So let's start with that. So as I showed you in this diagram, these tables have relations to each other. So let's say we wanted to find the username next to, so what we want is we want the ID of a task, the title of a task, and the name of the user that it's assigned to. So then we have to join tables, which I cannot remember how to do, but select let's say we want user.name, or we want task.id, task.title, and user.name. From. So see, before we just wrote ID, title, and name. When you're joining tables, you usually write the name of the table dot the field or the column that you want. If the column name is unique in the 2 tables, then it would work to not have the table name, but usually it's nice to have the table name there because then you know what it is you're selecting on. Even if you could get away with not putting it there, I would just say always put it there. It makes it a lot easier to find out what you're doing.
And there's almost always a column called ID in each table, so
yeah, we can actually let's read this from the task table. Is it
image on
user on task.user_id equals user.id. So before we run this, what we're doing here is we're selecting 3 columns from 2 different tables. First we start with the task table. So we start with this table here in the middle, where we have the user_id property that points to the user. And then we inner join it with the user, and we say this condition has to be true where we join it. So task.userid has to be equal to user.id. So now we should get a list of tasks with the usernames attached to these tasks. And you'll notice there are some tasks missing, and that's because we have 2 tasks that don't have any users attached to them. So we're not going to get those results because they don't have any results in the other table. So we can try the thing. If I just put ID here, what do you think is going to happen? Which ID is it going to take? The one from user or the one from task? So we can try. And actually it gives you an error. It says, it's a bit hard to read, but it says column ID in field list is ambiguous. It basically says there are more than one ID, I have no idea what to do, so I will just fail and tell you to try again. Yeah, basically. So that's a very common error if you forget that. Put the table name in front. But for example, title is not, or is unique, sorry, because that's only on the task table, and that's going to work fine. But it can still be very confusing, because if you write this query in an application and then 6 months later someone else comes along and then reads your query, they don't necessarily know what that does. So it's nice to put task doc in front of, just so you know what it is. Also, when you read it 6 months later and you have no idea what it is you're doing.
And also maybe at some point someone else adds another column that's also called the title.
Yeah.
So you can suddenly something that used to work is going to break the application.
Yeah. So you could imagine the user table having a column called title, because Mr., Doctor, Miss, Mrs., you know, all these different titles that people can have. Yes, I think we have. So this is one way of. We can also do something else actually. Let's say we wanted to find the status of the task as well. So a simple way of doing that would just be to add the status ID column to the query. But we don't want to read 2 and 1 and 3 and 4, whatever. We want to read the actual status as in not started, in progress, or done. So then we can actually join with another table. Status ID equals status.id. So now we're joining task with both the use table and the status table. So now we're going to get task ID, the title of the task, the name of the person who's working on it, and the status name. We can actually do something here. This is a bit hard to see. Maybe I will reorganize this a little bit. There we go. So what I did here is I select these 4 columns, but I give this last column an alias, so I can call it something else in the output. Now we get all the task names, titles, the people names, and the status of the task. Now started, in progress, and done, and so on. And you can join with this, as long as you have a key to join on, you can join as many tables as you want. You could join 50 tables in a row if you wanted to. And there are different, maybe you should try and run this locally, just to see if you can get it working. So we want, I'll just stop the recording.